About 60,000 global citizens gathered in Central Park in New York for the Global Citizen Festival, where the legacy of Nelson Mandela was being honored in his centenary year. South African businessman Patrice Motsepe and his wife, Dr. Precious Motsepe, appeared on the stage alongside world leaders, musical artists and activists. Our US correspondent, Bryce-Pease, covered the red carpet live.
Members of the Sisulu family joining us here. Of course, Lindiwe Sisulu, the International Relations Minister, will be speaking here at the Global Citizen Festival. What is your message to people watching, particularly in South Africa, and of course ahead of the big event that's going to be happening in early December to honor the legacy of Nelson Mandela?
That we should be the generation that makes the change where they left off. They've done the best that they could in terms of bringing us freedom and democracy in South Africa in particular, but we know at a global level, in terms of the sustainable development goals, we still have health goals, education goals, and goals on gender equality that still need to be achieved, and each and every one of us, just like Nelson Mandela and Albertina Sisulu were able to do their parts individually and collectively, we also, as global citizens, can do our part individually and collectively to achieve any of those goals, ensuring that we hold government to account to implement the goals that we have been set.
That's really the point. You know, people look at the United Nations as the enforcer of all the things that are good. Yeah. And what the United Nations does, it is a convening body that brings people together to decide what people they need to go back home and achieve. And you make this absolutely vital point, that it's up to the citizens, whether you're talking about ending poverty, when you're talking about gender equality, when you're talking about climate change mitigation. And festivals like this appeal to that vibrant young audience that is absolutely critical in achieving this. What's your message to those young people watching at home?
That they can be that generation that actually brings about the elimination of poverty in their respective countries, but that they can also advocate for change in other parts of the world, but also more immediately in their individual communities, because where we all live, it doesn't mean that everything is great. But if everything is indeed great for where we are and we don't have any psychosocial or economic or political issues that we're facing personally or directly, we certainly can lend a hand elsewhere through social media, which of course we know we're in the fourth industrial revolution, and make sure that your voice counts, your tweet counts, and actually by taking action beyond the resolutions that are taken, we're able to have a country and a society that we want.
I'm going to give you the last word. You've been nodding along. What's your message?
What she said.
Thank you very much to the Sisulu family. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Maps, this is really about translating the message from the United Nations, the Sustainable Development Goals, to a broader youthful audience.
Yeah.
Talk to this festival and the impact that it's having around the world.
I think it's phenomenal, the impact that it's having around the world, because you have hundreds and thousands of people, in fact millions of people, who are signing up to be global citizens, and they're all obviously with the incentive of perhaps having a concert like this and everything, are doing it, but also realizing through raising awareness for it just how big the Sustainable Development Goals are, how serious they are, and how many issues we have out there that need to be solved, just like this one that is Global Citizens Focus, which is the eradication of poverty by 2030. So to be able to get, like today, 60,000 people who've earned tickets to be able to be here is incredible, thinking of the fact that they all would have done some sort of social good to be able to do that, right? And you earn a series of points, but to sort of inculcate some sort of behavior that hopefully becomes habitual, because you've raised awareness through that and you realize the difference that you can make through it, makes you pretty optimistic about the fact that we could get there, that it's possible, and we could get there quicker than we even think. So, you know, to be able to top it off like this and, you know, be surrounded by people who are all pushing that same message and pushing their own passions within the SDG, personally mine is youth and education, and to be able to really stress the fact that we can actually all do something, although in the smallest way, is awesome to be a part of.
Very briefly, tell me about goalkeepers. I know you were part of a panel this week on the sidelines of the UNGA. What is that hoping to achieve?
Goalkeepers is hoping to bring leaders together and innovators together, and people with their various social enterprises that are focused on being able to achieve these SDGs by 2030. We had a massive conference on Wednesday earlier this week at the Jazz Lincoln Center, and really brought into the room a series of different reports and performers and speakers and different, I guess, speeches that were really speaking to that and showing the way that we could all do it through collaboration. Goalkeepers are something that really tries to highlight people who are keeping to the global goals and trying to raise the spotlight or shine the spotlight on that and realize the fact that, once again, it's something that we can all collaboratively do. So, yeah.
I will say one last thing is your Instagram account depresses me because it looks like you live a fantastic life.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
A very big South African contingent in New York, of course, throwing it forward to the December FNB concert in honor of Nelson Mandela's centenary, and one of the global citizen advocates is none other than South Africa's Paul Thusi, who's my guest. Paul, always good to see you. What are you going to tell these young people that are coming out today?
Wow, I'm going to tell them that they need to come to South Africa. If they're here right now, grab yourself a flight, make sure you tweet, make sure you do all the actions you need to do for Global Citizen to make sure that you score yourself a ticket to the festival coming through later with Beyonce, Jay-Z, D'banj, Casper Nyovest, and many other acts. And let's do the right thing. And this is a very... I think it's a very accessible and easy way for people to have a platform to change the world. I think we all want to make a difference, but we struggle to find ways that we can do that. And this is it's a great platform for people to be able to make that type of difference from their phones.
Yeah, it comes right after a high-level week at the UN General Assembly, and it's really about translating the message that perhaps doesn't appeal to this kind of audience and bringing in the stars really so that you resonate with a much broader audience around the world. How successful do you think a venue and an idea like this festival has been since its inception in 2012?
Wow, shout out to John Legend, who was the first celebrity to actually support Global Citizen and perform for free to fight for causes like this. I think there's many more strides that can always be taken. The world is changing, the world is growing, and as a global citizens are going to be born every single day, and you can actually participate as a global citizen. So this is going to, I think, go beyond the founders' expectations, the organizers' expectations, and us right now. I don't think we have any idea of how far this is actually going to go, and it's been so successful thus far. So
let me ask you one last question. It's about 17 sustainable development goals: women's empowerment, climate change, eradication of poverty, universal healthcare. Do you have a specific focus as Paul Thusi?
Well, as an ambassador of Global Citizen, the focus I particularly chose was women equality, and that's I gave an address earlier on this week for Level the Law. Hashtag Level the Law was the idea, where there were great dignitaries who were there who spoke before me, like the Deputy President of Costa Rica, one of the Deputy Prime Ministers from the UK, and we were all speaking on the idea of women equality and what it's going to take and the steps we need to take to achieve equality for women. So as a South African and one of the only Africans who spoke that day, there's a lot that's going to happen, not just for the world, but also very importantly for African women to change and have equality.
And of course, Goal 5 of the SDGs, which is women's empowerment and gender equality, critical for all the other goals to be achieved. They have a cross-cutting nature. Paul Thusi, always good to see you.
It's always a pleasure to see you and to see you guys.
Paul Thusi, of course, South Africa's very own Paul Thusi, a global citizen advocate, part of a very large South African contingent with us here in New York. I've just been joined by the Executive Director of UN Women, Mlambo-Ngcuka. What's your message, ma'am, to these young people that are gathered here at the Global Citizen Festival?
They have to be activists in their countries and help to change the status quo so that their world will be much better than the world we have now.
You've been talking to world leaders this week at the UN General Assembly. We had a conversation earlier this week. What's your sense coming out of this week-long engagement with what world leaders are doing and the message that you're trying to have resonate with these young people?
World leaders have lots of good ideas, but they're moving too slow, and they're not bringing the good ideas into scale so that we can have a significant impact sooner than later. So I'm just asking for acceleration, and I'm asking for scale.
We talked earlier about the cross-cutting nature of Goal 5, women's empowerment and gender equality. It's important that everybody understands just how important Goal 5 is so that you can actually implement the other goals. Is that message resonating? How do we ensure that the youth of today understand the value of Goal 5?
We have to say, like I said the last time we spoke, Goal 5 success is a precondition for the success of all the other goals. Gender equality is a precondition for the successful implementation of the SDGs. People must just remember that.
All right, go out and have fun, and I hope your message lands where it needs to.
Thank you.
And of course, Denai Guerrera of Black Panther fame. Could I just ask a question? The last time I saw you, we were all together at the United Nations, South African Broadcasting.
Yes,
we're live.
yes,
We're
yes.
live. What's your message? What's your
Africa.
message? What's your message to the young people here? You know, we've just come out of a week at the UN when world leaders have gathered. But this is really important because it's going to take this generation to really make the difference that we seek, that Mlambo-Ngcuka seeks, that Denai Guerrero seeks. Speak to that if you will.
You know, it's really clear to me that, you know, it is truly in the hands of the youth. And what the key thing is engagement, engagement, engagement. You know, there has to be really an investment and engagement in the things that are really happening in this world, not to let, there's so many distractions that we present to our youth today that can really get them off of what matters and what is inside of them that the world needs, that the next generation needs for them, they need. So it really is about engaging in what matters, coming to things like this where you hear the facts clearly, where you see the people behind the change that's trying to be enacted, where you know the issue so you can figure out, what am I passionate about? Where does my passion lie and where can I plug in and become and grow and mature? The other thing I'd say is information, information, information. You know, we are in a world where, you know, you can feel you're getting informed from reading a 140 character tweet. That's not information. It's not. You know, I come from a generation, we read the books, we go to the library with the little library cards, you know, absorb the books, the words, the wisdom, go to those who've been through things, learn, have that sort of, sorry, I'm daughter of a professor, you know, so
keep going.
That's, you know, this is what I was taught, and I really believe in it, that is something that the youth of today sometimes don't get encouraged on too much, because there are a lot of quick access things.
So you say find what you're passionate about. Of the 17 SDG goals out there, right, the Sustainable Development Goals, we were just talking about goal 5. Do you have a specific goal that you're passionate about?
You know, I'm not that good with it. I'm not that good with it.
You go 5.
Well, listen, goal 5,
women's
girls
empowerment.
and women and girls. That's my passion. That's my focus. Women and girls, education, and really, you know, real clear equality. You know, we're just at a time where, what the heck, man?
Tough week in Washington.
You know, seriously. But when we're at a time where we really honestly need to be clear about that with ourselves. Don't deflect it. It can be uncomfortable, that's okay. But don't deflect, accept that we must make change in this area. Women and girls deserve the same opportunities, and they must not be held back from being the greatest they can be.
Good to see you. Thank you for stopping.